All right, up until now we've learned about translations, and translations are also another word for slide. So one thing I want to point out is the difference between using words and numbers when we do translations. Most of the time when we look at translations, we think in terms of the words. So translate right, translate left, up and down. One thing that you need to be able to do is called vector notation, and that's just a fancy way of saying add to the x and add to the y, or subtract from the x or subtract from the y. So when you are looking at a coordinate plane, you've got your x-axis, and remember your x-axis is like a number line. So every time you go to the right, that's positives. Everything to the left is subtracting or negatives, right? And then our y-axis is going up and down. Going up is positive, going down is negative. So when we hear phrases like translate to the right 6 units, or translate to the left 4, up 2, or down 1, you're essentially just saying, okay, if I'm going to the right on my x-axis, I'm going to be adding 6 to my number, my x coordinate. Or if I'm going left, I'm going to be subtracting that number from my x coordinate. Going up would be to add to my y, and going down would be to subtract from my y. So if you ever get confused, you can just draw a quick sketch of your coordinate plane, and or draw your axes, and just put x with a positive, x with a negative to remind you the directions, y with a positive, y with a negative to remind you of those directions. So let's look at some examples really quickly. Okay, like I said, up until now, we've just been translating mostly just by looking at the words or doing it visually. So if I say to you, translate 6 units to the right, you would probably count each point to the right 6 units. So starting here, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There is our new, we could call that A. So that would be A prime. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 would be our B prime. And then from this point, let's make that C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, C prime. And then we just connect our dots like we've been doing in the past. And that's pretty doable, right? So you need to understand that the way that we translate with the numbers, with vector notation, is we'll say, instead of left, right, up, or down, we'll say x plus 2. And so you need to understand that x plus 2 is going to be moving to the right 2 units. So just being able to go back and forth between the words and the numbers is all that you really need to do on this one. So if I have the vector notation of saying x plus 2y, all I'm doing is adding the number 2 to my x coordinate. Now I could just scooch it over visually like I just did on the last problem, but I could also just add the number 2 to each of those points. So I'll do it both ways so that you can see. So if I went 2 to the right, I would go, my A prime would be here now. So here's A prime, B prime is here, C prime here, and D prime here. So they're overlapping just a little bit, but it just scooched or slid in that direction. So that's with the words, and that's visually, right? But also I could have just easily done it without even looking at the graph and said, okay, well, 2 plus x is going to be -1, and my -1, my y stays the same. I did not move up or down. And then -1 plus 2 is going to be 1. My y stays the same. -2 plus 2 is 0. And then it goes down -3. -4 plus 2 is -2. And again, my y stays the same. Okay? So another example is sometimes you'll get points, sometimes you'll get triangles, sometimes quadrilaterals. If it says translate 7 units left and 5 units down, just imagine that your x and your y are going to have these changes. So if I'm going 7 to the left, I'm going to say, okay, well, I'm taking that away from my x. That every time I move left, I'm subtracting from my x. And if I'm going to go 5 units down, that's subtracting from my y. So instead of just, again, moving it visually, I'm going to just go ahead and jump on in here and subtract those values from my coordinates. So if I have 2 minus 7, that's -5. 5 minus 5 is 0. 4 minus 7 is -3. 5 minus 5 is 0. 5 minus 7 is -2. 3 minus 5 is also -2. 1 minus 7 is -6. And 3 minus 5 is -2. So I could just jump and plot those points really quickly and say, okay, let me get a different color here. Yeah, I'll keep this one. Negative 5, 0 is going to be my A prime. Negative 3, 0, B prime. Negative 2, C prime. And negative 6, negative 2 is my D prime. And I can go ahead and connect those dots for my new image. So we've got our pre-image and our image, and we could do it visually or with the math. I'm going to do one more. On this one, they've given us the directions already in vector notation, so you need to say, okay, I'm going to move to the left 1 and down 4. So if I just scooch everything over once, it would visually look like that, and then down 4 would go down here, 4, and down 4, and I would connect those dots, right? So I'm going to make that my first step, but I still need to make sure that I have my coordinates, my A prime, B prime, and C prime coordinates. So if I just subtract 1, negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4, 2 minus 4 is negative 2, B prime is negative 2 minus 1, which is negative 3, 0 minus 4 is negative 4, negative 4 minus 1 is negative 5, and finally 0 minus 4 is negative 4. So I check out, does that work? Negative 2, 4 was my A prime, negative 3, negative 4, B prime, and negative 5, negative 4, C prime. So that checks out, and that is my new image.